Pro Tips! Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pro Tips! This week we're going to be talking about how to roast coffee for cold brew. Now just to be clear, when we say cold brew, we mean an immersion style brewer using ice cold water like this one. And when we say cold drip, we mean a drip style brewer like this one. Okay, so today's pro tip applies to both cold drip and cold brew. Now we see many roasters talking about roasting for espresso versus roasting for filter versus roasting for omni roast, but how come nobody really talks about roasting for cold brew coffee? Now when we brew cold brew coffee, we're generally extracting using cold water, which doesn't extract as fast as hot water. It's at a much slower rate, so we have to compensate with a longer time. But have you tried dissolving sugar inside ice cold water recently? It doesn't work even after like forever. Compound that with the fact that the perception of sweetness is generally lower at low temperatures. So if you imagine an ice cream, when you're first eating it, when it's cold and it's frozen, it tastes good. But once it has completely melted into a liquid form, and if you lick that liquid, it's going to be overwhelmingly sweet and it's not so enjoyable anymore. That's because the perception of sweetness is higher at that liquid temperature as opposed to when it was frozen. The lower the temperature, the harder it is to perceive sweetness. Compile that with the fact that everybody likes to roast light these days, and we all know that lighter roasts have higher levels of acidity. So high levels of acidity in a light roast, inability to extract sugars because of the cold temperatures, lower perception of sweetness in low temperatures, and you have a very sour coffee. So how come everybody still claims that cold brew coffee is a low acidity coffee? It only extracts the good parts and the sweetness out of the coffee, and it doesn't extract the acid components. The key is actually to roast your coffee darker, to develop it more so that it has more time inside the roaster to break down the organic acids, lower the perception of acidity, and increase the perception of sweetness. It will become more soluble, so you'll be able to extract more of the coffee even with the cold water. Switch that up with a natural processed coffee and it gets even better with higher levels of sugars and even with those fruity tones inside your cold brew coffee, and it will be delicious. That's it for this week's pro tips. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we have a little small announcement to make. Next week will be the season finale of Pro Tips. So if you like the video, please comment, like, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and we'll see you next week.